true.
Well, I know, but
Well, that's-
that's not what that says.
Well, yeah, and I tried to find that hour rule, and I couldn't.
So the
Not
air,
in the regulation, I
what's the
couldn't
Aero
find
Club
it.
care about? What that is right there?
Well,
It's FAA regulation.
yeah, that's FAA, and the thing is that I thought it was an hour after 2.
It is. That's
Yeah.
what the rule is.
Yeah, that's what
hour
the
after.
FAA is, yeah. And an hour, hour before sunrise, right? Before sunrise, yeah.
Just took the test.
Yeah, I know, you should be able to be up, you're the one that should be up here. Okay, required checkouts, okay, initial check in each make and model, everybody knows that, should know that. Initial night, which is what we just talked about, initial annual instrument, okay, initial and annual standardization flight check in the pilot's most complex airplane, okay? That's if you want to stay qualified in that airplane, then you have to be, that's the airplane you do the standardization check, the annual check ride. It's not really a check ride, it's actually just where you go up with John or Jerry, where they just kind of look you over. You know, Randy does it too in the T-34s. Now, if it's tied to a BFR, biannual flight review, which is an FAA requirement, now you must follow the FAA regulations, which makes it more. They want you to go up for at least an hour in the airplane and 1 hour on the ground with questions and answers, okay? But when you're doing it just for the Aero Club, your annual check for the Aero Club, you can do it at any, you can, you know, John could go in and just ask one question and be satisfied and then go out and then like Randy did the other day, went up in the airplane for 5 seconds and landed and said, you're okay. Well, it wasn't seconds, 5 minutes. No, actually, you know, usually goes up about 30 minutes or so. And that's, there's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly how, if the instructor is fully satisfied that the pilot's doing fine, usually those guys are usually the ones that are, you know, high time flyers anyhow, like Tyler Trickey. I mean, he religiously comes out every single Friday and flies the T-34s. And, but somebody who hasn't flown for a year, it might be just a little more involved. Let's see, initial formation flight check, of course, and then of course, obviously, you know, if you're going to be doing some formation flying, Randy Ball is the guy. He's the one that will get you in that, and Don Ram is also, he's an examiner that will examine you. John Reed, our ops officer, just did it.
Rich.
Oh, Rich. Richard? Yeah.
Rich is a check pilot.
He's a check pilot too. Okay, so, and there's a lot of others too. Okay, the 200 flying time rule, basically what, very simply, less than 200 total hours. If you have less than 200 total hours, then it's 3 touch and goes for every 60 days. If you're over 200 total flying hours, then it's 3 touch and goes every 90 days, which is the FAA rule.
It's deceiving because in the retractable gear, you're not allowed to do a touch and go. T-34s are not allowed to do it. So it really means 3 landings are required. 3 landings are required in less than 200 and 3 landings required over for the 60 and 90 day period.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's because the T-34 rule, that's something that's kind of a separate rule in the T-34 specific for that airplane. But a T-41, you can do touch and goes. It's just in the T-34s because that's an Air Force regulator that came down way back about 12 years ago, because they used to be able to do touch and goes. When Fred was still the manager, that's what came down with the T-34s. And then if you hit 200 flying hours, for you young people who are up and coming, when you hit that 200 hours, expect John to give you a phone call to want to be a clearing official. The good thing about being a clearing official is that you can sign yourself off. So you don't have to wait for Bob, me, or anybody else to sign your flight plan off. You can sign yourself off. Okay, David.
Do we still have a check for $200 for a complex airplane to Chief Force? Used to be.
No, it's it's 125 now.
125 by regulation.
Yeah, 125. It used to be 200, yes, it was. Let's see. The higher performing airplane, basically that just means that is, if you get checked out in any airplane of a lower performing airplane, you do not have to fly that lower performing airplane except once every 6 months. You can do, you do your 3 touch and goes, as long as you stay current in the primary airplane that you're assigned to, that you want to fly in. Any questions on that? Wind limitations, all pilots, of course, will follow the POH. You know, a lot of them are just, this right here is one of those things, there are people in this club that will not fly the airplane if the wind is just fine at all, or if the wind is blowing at all. And again, it's one of those comfortable things, okay? Don't exceed what you think you're able to handle. However, I gotta tell you, you know, you need to, if you are like that, you need to practice though. You do need, if you feel uncomfortable, go up with Jerry or John or Garrett is here, or Randy. You know, go up and actually do crosswind landings. Force yourself into it. I mean, you're going to have to, because you're not going to get a whole lot of flying if you don't fly. When you have just a little bit of winds blowing. You know, we have instructors here that will go up with you and do these things. So just, you know, don't be afraid of it. When the crosswind component in March exceeds the maximum limit, which it can when you get the Santa Ana winds, I've been there. I've had them all of a sudden, the winds are gusting at 25 knots, direct crosswind. And if that does happen, you can divert, and you can go into Riverside Airport, Chino Airport, French Valley, Hemet Ryan, or Redlands, okay? Find out what the winds are at those places, and land so that you don't get yourself in trouble. When a weather divert is necessary, then you can use Banning Airport, Palm Springs, or Apple Valley. And of course, those are the ones that are kind of out in the desert. I kind of laugh at Banning because Banning oftentimes has a lot of winds blowing.
Sometimes low ceilings, something.
And low ceilings too, yeah. Well, I mean, right, I live in Banning, and we always have the clouds that we get here. But I can look out my back door, out, you know, out my patio, and there's Palm Springs over there, and the sun's just shining away, you know. But where we're at, it's nice and cloudy and raining. I love it. So, okay. Winds, it will be the pilot's responsibility to inform the control tower that the winds will not allow for 3012 takeoff. Again, pilot in command. Be pilot in command. And then, of course, use the appropriate flight controls. Okay, this is for students. Basically, they have wind limitations. The basic is basically they can't fly at all at 26 knots total. 15 knots crosswind. For a local or solo cross country, 5-knot crosswind is the limitation for a student. Cross-country flight, really simple, have at least 1 hour of fuel reserves. Period. Any questions on that?
That's regulation.
Yep. Loss of communication, set transponder 7600. Enter the field through any of the 3 entry control points, like Three Sisters, Box Springs, or Ridgecrest at 3,000 feet MSL. Enter the rectangular pattern, midfield, for runway 1230 or 1432 and look for the light gun signals from the tower.
5 minutes on their video left.
Okay, yeah, you're running over. So, that's the quick and dirty of it. There is a little bit more to it and all that, but right now, we're not really gonna cover that. Ground safety, it is the pilot's and command's responsibility to be safe on the ground when you're taxiing that airplane. If you look like you're getting too close to something with your wingtip, then shut the engine down and check it out. If you got a passenger, or preferably a pilot who belongs to the Aero Club, just shut your engine down again, get the person out and have them walk with you. Or use your cell phone and call Bob to go out and walk it. I won't, I'll just stay there at my desk. I'm just a clerk, I don't do those kind of things. Just kidding. Anyhow, use the tow bar. Be careful with the tow bar. As many people, the old timers will tell you, be careful. If you do not have the tow bar anchored down on the wheels down there, the tow bar can slip on you. There has been some people here that have, one broke his nose, and because he hit the spinner up front, because the tow bar went boom like that. Be really, really careful about that. The tow bar can bite you, or the airplane, or something.
Do not push on the spinners. Push on the blade.
On the blade, yeah.
Do not push or pull on the spinners.
When I'm offloading passengers, the engine will be shut down. Master switch should be off. Well, no, will be off, and the master switch off. Okay, any questions on that one? Refueling, same thing, all refueling operations will comply with the regulations. Refueling operations will not be accomplished with thunderstorms within 5 miles, okay? If you have any questions about that, have either Bob or I or one of your instructors or something find out if it is. Usually, if you see lightning, don't refuel.
They call us, the operation will call us.
Yeah, ops will call us usually when it's within 5 miles, almost every time they will. Clean the windscreens and all that kind of stuff. Fire
Take the
extinguisher.
windscreens, Roger, while I got the windscreens, can everybody please keep stuff off the glare seal? The only thing that should be put on there is the keys when you're refueling. The glare seals have got nothing but the windscreens with all kinds of scratches in them now, from clipboards or whatever people throw
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
I've changed 2 windows in there just for scratches, you can't see through them, so.
yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I know, it's 9:30 already.
No. Come on the video.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we'll, if it runs out, it runs out. We're running out here anyhow. Fire extinguishers will be available, okay? Look for the fire extinguisher, so when you go out there, refueling or just starting an airplane, look for this fire extinguisher. They better be out there, okay? That's a must. Oh gee, let's see, find the nearest extinguisher, avoid overclimbing in cold weather. We really don't get weather that bad here. Typically, though, if you do have a fire that starts while you're trying to start an engine, do not shut the engine off. Keep the thing going. Hopefully it will suck the fire right up into the engine, and then keep it going for another few minutes before you do anything. If the fire does not go out, then you may have a problem, but give it time for the fire to go out. Don't panic, because the plane's not going to explode on you. Just keep that thing cranking. Okay, and now if it doesn't go out, then of course the obvious, you get out of that airplane, shut everything off, electricity, everything. Get out of the airplane, get the fire bottle. And the tower will probably already have the fire department called. Okay. Report, okay, very quick, very straightforward. If you have an accident, incident, or anything like that, you call Bob and then the wing command post. There is a 24-hour number up there. 655-2944. If you can remember that number, that's the command post. At the very least, get a hold of Bob or myself or any one of your instructors. And then we will carry it from there. And then, of course, take any immediate actions you need to take for whatever the situation is. You know, life, limb protection, make sure that there are incidences where this falls under somebody doing something to the airplane illegally. In other words, a crime or something like that. That has happened. Now, of course, if you're off base, that's a whole nother ballgame. And again, if you go out to the airplane and somebody vandalized it or stole stuff out of it at a place that you've flown where you RON, then you need, of course, obviously call the local cops, the police officer, but you also need to get a hold of Bob or myself and let us know about it. And then, of course, we'll have to go up the chain because it's treated the same like an accident. You know, if somebody breaks into the airplane, it's treated the same.
Aircraft is federal offense, and any tampering of any aircraft is a federal offense.
Exactly, exactly. And don't just let it go. You need to take care of it right then. That way, everything will be right there. Now, if you have an accident or anything like that, where it involves, you know, where it's going to, you know it's going to be an FAA, NTSB investigation involved, immediately take the forms of the airplane, if they're still able to do so, your flight log book, and all of that stuff, and photocopy it right off the bat. Because NTSB will confiscate all of that stuff. Bob and I will have to take the individual's records out of the books in there. If there's any training records involved, we will be in there photocopying all of that. Because within hours, you know, you're going to have the NTSB walking into that office wanting everything, including the forms of the book, of the airplane, everything. If you can get anything that's in that airplane and get it photocopied, because you see, there's an Air Force investigation side of it too. And NTSB loves to come in and just take over. It's kind of like the IRS. But we need to have our information too, because we need to also have an investigation on our side. I know it's something, you know, when you're in a situation like that, you know, you're kind of frazzled, but try to keep your wits about you and think through all this stuff. And then, of course, you got bird strikes. We do have a bird strike kit that's in the office, and there's something on the bulletin board. Real quick, there are 3 levels of bird warnings on the base. You have low, moderate, and severe. Low, there's no restrictions. Moderate, all traffic pattern stops, but you still can fly to another place. Okay? Severe, there are no operations whatsoever unless there's an emergency. If you want it, or if it's bad enough for you to want to be able to fly out of there and go someplace else, then you got to get the ops group commander's okay on that. You can't just jump in the airplane and leave. Besides, the tower won't let you leave anyhow. But that's the worst case scenario. And then collision avoidance to the south. Everybody knows about the parachute, Paris jump zone. Watch out for that. That can be extremely dangerous. This stuff is published in the safety office that publishes a little booklet on all this stuff, and it tells you all the altitudes and all that. And the tower should tell you that there is jump, or that it's active or not. However, they may not always, but usually they do. And if they say it's active, then stay high. Stay away from that area down there.
It's on the ATIS at all times.
Okay, it's on the ATIS. Okay. And then, of course, collision, use your passengers. Use another person that's in the airplane. Have eyes out there all over the place. fly with another pilot if you can. And just like that little picture, that's that picture that shows how long, all the different areas of your eye looking out of the airplane around the clock. Okay, aviate, navigate, communicate, fly the airplane, fly the airplane, fly the airplane, fly the airplane. I can't overemphasize that. Any questions? Phew. Wow. Bob talked too long. Okay, next month, John is gonna be your safety officer. Okay? So, and it will be a wings program too. So,
Where are you going?
I am going to be going to a dinner that I go to every single year. A real nice dinner, and I pay a lot of money for it too.
$1.95.
Yeah, huh? Yeah, it's gonna be $100 this time. So, unless there's any questions, I think I'm done with it. The next meeting is the, 20 February. Okay? Be sure you sign the,